They're not done yet.
I don't believe so.
Their house is done, but either it's still got
Go through
outside.
that. I think somebody would.
Oh, it's my business. Yeah.
That's it right there.
I don't think so.
Yeah, that was came out today. I mean, it was done earlier. No, they've been living, somebody's been living there.
It's probably not. Guess you have time. It's almost 5.
I don't keep up with neighbors. Whatever, just put it on.
I see.
Last time I saw Diane,
Yeah. I don't know
we
yet.
were at a meeting.
I'm just waiting to see whether Alan shows up.
Oh, okay.
Got a couple of guys.
I know she lost her tape. We lost that, so.
You lost your pig, you lost your old horse too.
Okay. Well, it makes sense. Yeah, there you go.
You wanna do it at
Took the
6 or
clock
7?
down, so you can't tell how long it's been. Oh, moved it. That's so they can see it.
I know, right, I agree. I just hate asking everyone that.
I know, nothing.
Well, you want non-public, so that's why.
Hmm?
You wanted non-public, so that's why I got it.
No, I know,
Oh, yeah.
but I mean,
I just texted him, I don't know if he's. See what he says.
Sure.
Sure enough, someone's.
and then maybe November we go back again, you know? Kind of thing.
You know what, yeah, I was fine the other day, I just, such a, not spreading the wildfire so bad. And
Well, you gotta go through
my wife
the,
is still not sick yet, so I didn't wanna.
Squeeze in every second.
I think we just go, and then in between whatever item he comes in, then you say
That's
you
what,
want
24 hours.
Yeah, okay.
Where's?
Oh, God.
I didn't know if it had to be. Okay, I didn't know if it had to be the beginning and the end. Oh, thank you.
Actually, the Friday, see if that was
Double
good,
check
you
my
can do
notes.
whatever.
But it was more like fever and eggs.
Yeah, well, I think
Okay.
it's whatever.
Okay,
Scott in the hospital.
it being 5 o'clock, I will call the Tamworth Select Board meeting to order on April 18th. Changes and additions to the agenda. We are adding an intent to cut, map 408, lot 56. Timber yield tax, map 410, lot 50, to ratify a correction and limitation of liability for erection of a building or driveway on a Class 6 road. Is there one other?
That's it.
That's it, okay. New business, department head report from Rick Moreau, maintenance department. You're on.
Good. Hello, everybody. Where to start? Spring cleanups are underway. A little behind because of the last storm, obviously. The trees everywhere. We had a few problems with the storm. We lost the furnace here, but as of today, just got it up and running again, so that's good. That particular part took a while to get, it was back ordered, so we were out, almost a week and a half. Yeah. But we have 4 furnaces in this building, we're only down 1, so.
4?
Yeah. So that was the good news with that, that's up and running. Recent stuff, painting, townhouse, Melanie can vouch for that.
Yeah, looks great.
Looks great.
Yeah. Bathroom, what do you call that, the little lobby,
Entryway, yeah.
the entranceway,
Up going up the
ceilings, And the stairwell, that was really difficult. Yeah, it was like 3 different kinds of paint, so looks great. Really needed it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Flooring, as you can all tell, nice and shiny. It's been a real project. All that's left is Kim's office, the clerk's office. And that's probably gonna be the most difficult room because there's so much stuff in there. Big stuff. Like I said, storm wreaked havoc with a lot of things. Even at the library, it kind of messed up the alarm system, so we took care of that. Dealing with Lakeside, we're gonna have her, probably next month, she's gonna take care of this door finally with that remote button on the outside. We're gonna hardwire one because we had nothing but problems. It's never worked. So we come up with a plan to hardwire one in. It might not be very cosmetic, just the way the conduit's gonna run and stuff. Shouldn't be a problem. And also, I got firebox tests scheduled for here and townhouse on the 29th. Again, Lakeside Security. We test all the pole switches and all that. Make sure it's all communicating properly. We have plumbers in here today. Didn't disrupt us too much, just running water lines for TCNA. Didn't amount to a lot. That's done and over with. Still waiting to tie in the electricity. That's gonna be a big issue. We're at the mercy of Eversource for that. So we might have an outage here. We're not sure what the day is gonna
Like
be.
half day, you think?
Yeah, and even though we're on generator power, you still have to disconnect that as well, because you can't have it. You shut the power off, they're still gonna be live.
Yeah.
Yeah. Tennis courts are up and running as of yesterday, day before. Nets are up, all cleaned up. I just brought some gravel down there for the entranceway, backhoed it out, smoothed it out. So, I also built Emily a bulletin board we're gonna install down there as well, so she can
Yeah.
post stuff. And we'll probably do one at the rec building as well. There's probably 500 million other things I could tell you, but that's at the top of my list at the moment. Like I say, spring cleanups. Melanie's offered some flowers at one of the flower beds. We're gonna, was trying to get you today, but it didn't happen, but
You
maybe
can do it
tomorrow.
whenever,
Yeah.
they're still little.
We think we could salvage some stuff and spread them around town.
Nice.
And, flags have all been replaced. And I believe, can't remember his name, in the memorial. over here.
Mark Alvey.
Mark
Yeah.
Alvey. I was gonna replace that one,
Oh,
but
you
he
were?
beat me to it, so that's, yeah, so I got 3 out of 4. So, all brand new around town. And,
Has Jeannie started at the townhouse yet?
sorry?
Has Jeannie started?
No,
No,
she had to wait for the mud,
Oh,
because where she does it is up at Roy Hammond's old place.
oh,
That road
I
is
didn't
where
know
she
that.
sets it all up.
oh,
I saw her one day, and she said it has to be when there's no mud, and that takes a little bit while we're
Yeah.
up there.
yeah, that road.
Yeah.
I spoke to her on Monday as well.
Yeah.
And, yeah, so,
That makes 3 of us, because I did too.
yeah, we're getting ready to pull the trigger on that, as well as the other repair.
Yeah,
Yeah,
good.
won't be long.
We got an email from the New Hampshire Moose Plate folks asking to have things started, so I asked Jean, she was waiting for mud season. One thing I was thinking about, I haven't talked to anybody else about it, is we did get a grant for several windows, but at this point, the sill is certainly way more important than any of the windows. So I was thinking of asking the Moose Plate folks, could we reallocate a couple of windows and have them pay for the sill? So it's something that I might ask him and see if it's worth see if they're into that. Because the money's budgeted regardless, but then the state would pay for it instead of us.
Yep.
So we'll see how that goes.
Okay. Like I said, that's all I can get off the top of my
Yeah.
head at the moment.
That's good,
Anybody got
Rick.
any
That's good.
questions or wants, needs?
No, things look good.
Okay.
Yeah. All happy.
You got through another winter. That's good.
Yeah,
Well,
long winter,
Yeah.
even when they short their field long.
winter in April. Yeah, those last two storms were brutal,
Yeah.
didn't need it.
Well, thank you.
All right, thank you, Rick.
Thanks a lot.
We have a TCNA update from Maureen Diamond.
Hi there. My name is Maureen Diamond, and I am a Tamworth resident, and I'm here tonight as a member of the TCNA board. June could not be here. She's a much better representative on this project than I am. But I offered to read her recent letter to the select board into the record. And it's a good time for me to clarify. I thought about the meeting on April 9th a lot. And what occurred to me is that discussion about the parking lot was an excellent example of why we have public meetings. That needed to happen. We needed to have that discussion. You hear from so many committees, commissions, or department heads, work groups, so many things to keep in your mind. It's clear that, you get a lot of reports and memories kind of get fuzzy. So the purpose of this is to clarify the discussion from last week. I'm not trying to reopen the discussion tonight. I think you have plenty on your agenda, and it would be a waste of your time and everybody else in the room to do that because June isn't here, and because this issue is on our agenda on Monday for the TCNA board to discuss it and to make sure that we satisfy the needs of the town and live up to the spirit of our agreement. So, let me find the letter. Whoopsie daisy. Dear Select Board, I'm writing to follow up on the discussion I had with you at the April 9th Select Board meeting about TCNA's plans for the town office parking area. The assertion that the plan originally called for paving the entire parking area, including the gravel area, that was personally troubling to me because I was certain the engineering plans did not show that, and also certain that I had not misrepresented the project plans in any discussions with the Select Board. After I left the April 9th meeting, I checked the engineering site plan drawings from first draft to final, which the Select Board approved. Each version includes a notation for the demarcation line of, quote, transition from paving to gravel, end quote, parking. An enlarged printed copy of the final site plan showing this notation has been placed in the town administrative office if you wish to see it. Never at any time have I, either personally or representing TCNA, stated a commitment to paving the entire parking lot area, the entire gravel area, which would be very costly. At your April 9th meeting, it was also said that there would be added cost to the town for maintaining the gravel parking area. I checked with Richard Roberts on this point because he's very familiar with the plans and has been working closely with us on this site. The town already maintains what is now the rough gravel/mud area for overflow parking. The TCNA building plan calls for enlarging and improving the gravel area to provide 6 additional parking spaces for a total of 35 versus 29, including 2 handicapped parking spaces. The plan also includes a new pole for light in the expanded area, although there will be fewer paved spaces, 15 versus 29 now. The surface of the unpaved area will be greatly improved. Overall maintenance costs for the parking lot are not expected to change significantly. Rather than speculating further, let's see how it turns out and then we can address specific issues that arise. As you know from the Memorandum of Understanding and the lease revision, TCNA is making every possible effort to avoid adding any ongoing costs to the town as a result of this project. If anyone has specific concerns, they should notify the TCNA of leadership so that the issues can be addressed. TCNA is grateful to the many generous donors and granting agencies funding this project who recognize the significant benefits that TCNA and this project bring to the town. So, thank you very much. I appreciate the
All right.
opportunity. to
Thanks
say
for that
you.
clarification, Maureen. And I think we should say too that June especially, as your liaison, has been very diligent about giving us detailed updates, and it's just, I can only speak for myself because Bruno at the last meeting said, well, you saw all the plans too. That gravel paving are not the kind of details I'm gonna hold in my head over time. The presentation was made, and I appreciate the follow-through to clarify the concern that was voiced at
That's
the last
June's
meeting.
nature. She wouldn't have it any other way.
Yeah,
so.
it was great, thank you.
Okay, thank you. I don't see Paul Priestman here, so I think we'll skip that for now. But Nelson O'Brien is here for the Conservation Commission discussion.
All right, I'll stay right here if it's okay. The last time I was here, I think it might have been January, with a conservation easement. After I left, I guess there was some discussion about the finer points of conservation easements, and I was asked if I would give you a little background, tutorial, whatever, let you ask questions about the process of conservation easements. And I'm assuming you got the little note, the notes I sent out. Okay. I'm not going to read those verbatim. They're there so that if you look at them and say, I have a question about what he wrote, just please, let's keep this as a discussion. What I have done is go through our process here in Tamworth and the Conservation Commission about what is conservation easement, how it's done, what are the implications, and that sort of thing. And this is primarily the way we in Tamworth do it. It's not very different than anybody else because most of it is codified by New Hampshire RSA. So a conservation easement, let me just start out with the real basics, and I hope I'm not going to be giving the impression that you don't know anything. No, my point is not to do that, but just to start out from a level ground. Conservation easement is essentially a deed which a landowner will give to a grantee. In this case, it would be the town. And the purpose of the deed is to establish what can and cannot be done with the land under conservation easement. The deed goes with the property, and it is in perpetuity, so whenever it's sold, the conservation easement goes with it. Now, one of the things that you need to remember is that conservation easements are generally on woodlots or agricultural lands. We don't include anything that's a residence, a commercial establishment, commercial equipment, unless it happens to be something that you would use in, let's say, maintaining a woodlot or a sugar bush. You might have a sap house. That's fine. But that's about, and if you're doing farming, barns, and that sort of thing are allowed, but no other types of, let's say you wanted to put a golf course in, no, that would not be allowed. But that gives you an idea. Now, conservation easements can be written any number of ways, but that's generally what we do in Tamworth, just allowing woodlots and agricultural fields. And the other thing that I want to mention is that frequently a whole lot is under conservation easement, but not necessarily. You can have a part of a lot under conservation easement. In fact, that's what we generally end up with if a landowner is putting an easement on property where he or she lives, because we will not include that. So if you do that, you have to have another survey done, which will just survey the land that's going to be under conservation easement. That survey is recorded just as you would with one where you're selling a property. And it's, of course, noted in the conservation easement as to what that property, that survey is. Now, here's where it gets a little sticky, and that is that a conservation easement, in fact, the last one that you did, covered 2 lots. You can have it cover 1 lot, you can have it cover a part of 1 lot, you can have it cover parts of several lots. For example, the Spalding easement, which NRC holds, that one covers parts of, I forget how many lots, but I don't want to try to figure it out. And the other thing that I want to mention is that there is also something called executory interest, which the town also participates in. And grantee holding executory interest simply means that if the original grantee can no longer perform the necessary easement monitoring and so forth, then the executor would take over. So it's just a fallback position, but it's not in all of them. And I briefly mentioned why. I think we've been over this before, but basically the reasons people want easement is that they want to keep their land as it is. For wildlife, for example, that's a fairly big one. For scenic purposes, view sheds, for example. Those are some of the reasons. And also to protect things that have become recreational type areas. An example of that is the trails along Mill Brook, which are mainly owned by the Alls. But those have been there for a while, and they're now protected by the conservation easements that the Alls put on there for public use. So they can't be closed down, they can't be shut off, shall I say. Now, any other questions about why we would do easements, or why people would want easements? All right, then we'll go on to restrictions, and I think I've already mentioned that. I will say that some new conservation easements, particularly those by the Forest Society, allow a landowner to erect solar or wind power with, as long as it's for personal use, and they usually cap the height, which this is done. As far as I know, there's only one in Tamworth, and it's not a town one. The other thing I wanted to mention, because we've had a problem with that, is subdivision. Most easements prohibit subdivision, and the thing that you have to realize, it is the subdivision of the easement, not a subdivision of the land. For example, quite a few people have properties which part of their lot is under conservation easement and part of it is not. Usually it's a part of their home. If they wished, they could sell the part that has the house to someone and the part that has the easement to someone else. But what they cannot do is divide the easement itself. So if you have, like in the case of the Holdens with 2 lots, under one easement, both of those lots have to be sold to the same buyer. And then I wrote down the process that we go through here, and that's just for your information. I think you know all of that, but if you have a question about any of those little bullet points, let me know. I'll be happy to address them.
I do, Nelson. So one question that's come up a lot in the past 6 months, because we've had different easements come before us, is the question of taxation.
I'm coming to that,
Yeah, well, so I wanna,
Okay.
this is a process question.
okay?
And so I saw the list that you shared with us about the steps that you go, the Conservation Commission goes through in order to determine whether or not the town should take on an easement and recommend it to the select board. So let's say that you've got a piece of land that abuts 25. So there's potential there for development, whether it's residential or industrial or any kind of development. Do you take into consideration only the conservation value of the land, or do you look at it with a broader lens as to what other uses might benefit the town?
Yes, we do.
Okay.
Do both, but of course, our primary interest is conservation, but we do look at both. And the size also. If it's a small parcel, probably we would not recommend that we accept it, for example. Let's say 5 acres, which would make a very nice commercial or residential lot on 25. That's just too small to deal with, even though it might have some, unless it has something very, very unusual about it. But basically, that is a decision. I'm not trying to evade your question. That is a decision, I think, that you as a select board need to look at. And if you think that that is detrimental to the town's interest, you should vote accordingly. That's my opinion.
Yeah, that makes sense, if there are two bodies, I mean, both bodies are required in order to
Yeah.
accept an easement, and they should use two different lenses, perhaps. Yeah,
No, it is not I don't think it's a cut and dried issue. Because I look at the major roads as being areas that the town needs. And if you look at most of our conservation easements, the frontage is still there. For example, let's take Bear Camp Valley Farm over by you. It has an easement on it, 2 lots of record, but the front part, which abuts the road, is not under easement.
right.
Now, primarily, that's largely because there's already houses there, but that's the sort of thing that we look for. And for Grace Payne's easement on, what's the road out here? Red Hill, thank you, Marilyn. Red Hill Road. The frontage on that is not under easement. So she could put another house up there or sell it to somebody else. Just the back and what abuts the bars.
And so do you ever find a situation where the Conservation Commission, I'm a property owner, I come in, I say, I've got this 150 acres that starts on 25 and goes up the mountain, and do you ever counsel and say, well, have you thought about leaving this section out? So
Yes.
so that's part of your conversation that you have? Yeah.
Yes, we have had that conversation. In fact, I recently had that conversation. We didn't see eye to eye. That's
Yeah,
a side point.
yeah. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. All right, one other thing, 2 other points. Can a conservation easement be changed? Yes, but not easily. A conservation easement is considered by the state of New Hampshire as a charitable trust. Therefore, if you change it, the Attorney General's office has to approve. Now, they have 3 levels of changes. The first one is fairly straightforward. It's simple things like someone does a new survey and finds that the old one was an error, or you want to increase some sort of protection or something specific. That's generally easy. The next one is for, I can't remember what all falls in that. The third one is if you want to radically change it, and that actually requires a court order. So you have to go to court to do that one. So they are not not easily changed. And the last two things I want to touch on is that once a conservation easement is signed and recorded, then we have what is called a baseline documentation, simply a snapshot of what the land looks like at the time the conservation easement was put on. And then when annual inspections are done, it's used as the reference point. Generally speaking, when we do annual monitoring here, there's rarely much to report, with the exception of storm damage, and for those lots which are along, say, the Bear Camp River, we got one that's disappearing fairly rapidly. But the other minor problem we have is butters pushing a little bit too far, and clutter and trash ends up on the, and that doesn't happen very often, but usually a letter is always necessary to get that squared. And the other thing that I wanted to mention was property tax implications. A conservation easement is taxed about the same as a piece of property in current use. And since almost all of the conservation easements which the town has are in current use, there's virtually no change in the tax base once the easement is put on. And I wanted to end up with a few statistics for you. Tamworth, if you count properties which are on a conservation easement, which have deed restrictions, which have covenants, which are owned by a government agent, whether it be the town, the state, or the federal government, or if it's owned by a land trust. Presently, if we add up all of those, it comes to 44% of the acreage in Tamworth, which is a lot. And I will tell you that the town is by far the smallest holder of acreage. The town only has 5%. So most of them are like Hemingway State Forest, state, and all the area around Shakoroa is usually has some type of easement, there are easements, there are restrictions, and there are covenants. And so that's for conservation. So, I don't know that if you would like a rundown of that, I'll be happy to give it to Keith and she can pass it on to you. We do keep a record of that, which is Chris Conrad does an excellent job of keeping track of all this. Any other questions?
Yeah, how do people decide whether they want to give a conservation easement to the town or some, other lakes region, whatever it's called?
Well, one thing is
Conservation
that we can do it a lot faster.
The town can?
Yes.
Oh,
And also, some of the land trusts will require some sort of stewardship fee, which some people wish to avoid, although I don't know that it's that big a deal. And some people, I can tell you that there are certain people in town who have been on the boards of various land trusts and have donated, they've donated them, easements to these land trusts because they were part of them. Lakes Region are the Society for the Protection of New Hampshire Forests.
so it's
Now, other than that, I don't know.
so it's a personal
It's
decision,
a personal decision on that part.
and if the town rejected it or accepted it, they could go to these other
Precisely.
places.
And, the one thing with the town, we do have a little, say-so. With all the others, the town has no say-so in the conservation easement.
There's no, I'm sorry, no say so what?
Well, if the conservation easement is between the landowner and, say, Lakes Region Conservation Trust, none of those discussions or none of those documents come through the town.
Right.
They're completely private. Anything else? I hope I haven't bored you too much.
No, perfect, thank you.
I guess I did have one. You mentioned the recreational use is one of the considerations
Yes.
for putting in an easement. Does having an easement on your land require you to open it up for recreational use?
It doesn't say that for recreational use, but almost all of the easements which the town holds do specify that it is open for the public. Unless it is something like a field where you have crops planted, then you can post that. Or if you're raising livestock, you have fenced-in areas, you would want to post against that. And if you were doing something like timber harvesting, you would post against that because you don't want anybody getting hurt.
Sure.
But generally, because it is town and we're using town resources to monitor these, we always feel that it's a good idea for the town's people to benefit.
Excellent. Thank you.
Other questions?
Question.
Becky?
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Sure.
If LCHIP funds are used to purchase and place in conservation easement, does LCHIP have any say in the conservation easement?
Yes. They have a say because they get reports every year, and then they also, about every four years, they do inspection themselves. And as for when the document is written, I believe that they have to sign off on it, so they probably do have some say. But I've only done the parts after with the monitoring and so forth. I have not been party to constructing a conservation easement where the LCHIP funds were used. Most of those were done in 1991, 1992.
Anything else? Thank you, Nelson. We skipped over you on the agenda, Paul, but now you're here, so
Sorry, I was late.
we will go to Paul Priestman to talk about investment policy.
The sewer commission is requesting that the select board consider revising its investment policy to allow for certain funds, particularly the sewer commission's funds, to be invested in sort of longer-term, higher yield investments. Primarily, well, really solely because we have responsibility for our septic fields, which are retired after about 30 years or so. And we're probably 5 years into the current fields. And so our aspiration is to reserve a portion of revenues from users and set aside enough money to pay for those when they come due for retirement. And then restoration or reconstruction, I guess, is really the way to think about it. So I think the current investment pools through the state, and again, I'm really we are asking the select board and the trustees of the trust funds to sort of use their expertise, because we are sewer commission people, we're not sort of investment people, to invest their expertise in sort of sussing out what that would look like, what that would be like. It occurred to us that New Hampshire retirement system is really set up for sort of that exact purpose, setting up sort of longer term investments, in which ups and downs in the market would, over the longer term, 30 years or so, would yield a higher return than sort of the shorter term investments that we currently have.
Well, I would say that we are not investment experts either, so we'd have to ask the trustees of the trust funds and
Yeah.
their advisors.
I was gonna say the same thing, and that I think what would be helpful is if you work with them, because they are the people with those brains, to come up with draft language that you'd like to see in us,
If you
us
could go
add to the
directly to them
policy.
and then
Yeah,
Okay,
bring it to us for approval.
okay, great.
yeah.
And if you
Yeah,
want,
we
More
weren't
color
exactly sure
discussion.
what the
Sure,
right.
discuss-
Yeah.
start here.
Yeah.
All right,
it's good to start here, and if you want one or more of us to sit in on the meetings, just let us know when they're happening.
okay.
Yep.
One thing that we could think about is, would there be a separate policy for the sewer commission funds, because maybe there's different goals than the rest of the town funds, and that would be one of the things that we and they could look at.
Yeah.
But I would agree that the outlook needs to be positive enough to look like you can renovate or rebuild those fields
Right.
after the 4 years.
Yep.
It's a very clear goal, and I think the clarity is helpful.
Thank you.
All right.
So feel free to reach out
Thanks
to
for
them
keeping
and let us
working
know
on that
when it
project.
happens. Has the meeting with DES happened? That was.
That has come to pass, and we will be
Very good.
making some progress with them, we think.
Good.
Shortly.
Great.
Okay, thank you, Paul. Next, we have authorization to sign White Lake State Park contract for Chief Littlefield.
And there's a thing you read next to that yellow sticky.
I don't read the whole thing.
No,
Just
well,
the-
just the paragraph,
indent.
Oh,
so,
just the paragraph in the middle?
yeah.
Okay. This is an annual thing, contract, so that our police force can patrol the state park when it's open. Resolved that Dana Littlefield, Chief of Police, is duly authorized to enter into contracts or agreements on behalf of Tamworth, the state of New Hampshire, acting by and through the Department of Natural and Cultural Resources, and is further authorized to execute any documents on behalf of this municipality which may be in his or her judgment desirable or necessary to effect the purpose of this resolution.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call vote.
Dusek, yes?
Bear, yes.
Schaefer, yes.
Prentice, yes.
Okay.
That was easy.
Building notification form revision.
Okay, so the planning board finished up a couple of months ago the revision to the subdivision regulations. And one thing that came up in that long process was what are tools we have to inform people of the fact that we actually have subdivision regulations that are more complex than just somebody who's coming in to build a development. Lots of things are covered under the umbrella of subdivision, and we don't have very much of land use regulation in Tamworth or zoning, and so a lot of people think that it's their land and they can do what they want, and there are state and town regulations to a degree that have to be addressed. So we have a building notification form that is required if your project is in excess of $5,000. And basically what this does is triggers the assessing office to know that there's something substantial going up on a piece of land. So one thing we talked about at the planning board was how it might be helpful to rearrange the building notification form, and by putting things in a different order, emphasizing the parts that we wanted to have emphasized, and also, it's like 3 pages double spaced, condensing that so that it's something that people are actually going to read. So this revision is really almost entirely, not quite, but almost entirely the same information that's on the original one, but it's reformatted. And we did add we did add the line, specifically pulled out, is this a subdivision as defined by the town's regulation? Which includes building multiple units for rent or sale on one lot and needs planning board approval. So, stuff is bullet pointed now that was kind of glommed into paragraphs or extensively kind of narrated in other places. So it looks very different, but the information's the same. What I didn't send to you, because I was just giving you the form itself to look at, what I didn't send is what will also be attached, which is this, this page that is the Town of Tamworth building requirements. So it does pull out the fact that we do have these land use requirements on the books. And on the back of that, which will be condensed, is just the RSA that permits us to have these requirements. So the information is pretty much the same. It's been rejiggered to emphasize things that we were worried were getting missed.
And here's some extra copies if anybody wants to see the form. It's not too exciting, but it is much more readable than the prior. I looked at it a few hours ago and marked it up and sent some comments to Leanne. So I wouldn't say that's necessarily the final version, but to have something that's just more readable is very helpful. Question?
Is there anything enforceable on it, so somebody doesn't turn one in?
The state law requires that a building notification be submitted, so I don't know what happens if somebody doesn't. I guess we go talk to a judge.
No, I know from past experience, people have built and you find out about it looking at a Google
After,
map or
yeah.
something and there's no building notification form. So I just wondered if there was anything on your bullet list that says if this is not completed, RSA, whatever kicks in for.
That's a good question. I did not add that because, as I said, I just reorganized what was already there.
Good suggestion.
Yeah.
So we could add to the front of this, so it's Article 5 of the building notification. We have a building notification ordinance, and the part that you'd be referring to, Becky, is Article 5 says, every person, firm, corporation, or entity violating any of the provisions of this ordinance shall be subjected to the fines and penalties set forth in RSA 676-17 as amended from time to time.
Only because it's lost revenue to the town if you
Right.
don't get your.
Yeah, that's a good point. I will add that.
One of the things that we would also use the form for is to see that we've hired a code compliance agent to help administer the groundwater protection ordinance and a floodplain development ordinance. So part of that person's job is to look at every one of these forms to see, okay, somebody intends to build a house, let's say, isn't in the floodplain. To make sure that that person knows it's in the floodplain and there's a whole bunch of extra steps if you plan to build in the floodplain. And I don't know if anybody ever caught that or thought about that before, but it's important to have somebody looking at that. And the form also has a reference to the groundwater protection ordinance, which is new, so that if it's a business or any entity that has those volumes of hazardous chemicals, that they understand that there's additional requirements for them as a business entity. So it helps inform us what's going on, and then we can inform the landowner what their responsibilities are.
So there's a draft. I'll make tweaks using Richard's feedback and Becky's suggestion, and I will bring it to the next meeting. And if you guys have feedback, get it to me, so we can have that.
Yep.
And then we can get it turned in.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, old business, update on transfer station improvements.
Thank you. I'd like to speak if I may.
Sure, I think I'll start though.
What?
I'll start,
You'll start?
and then you'll jump in.
Okay.
I'll provide some context as to why we're here. As everybody probably remembers, we had town meeting 2 years ago, I think, I lose track of the years sometimes, that authorized the town to make improvements to the transfer station, and it included a grant from the federal government, which was received, I think, right after town meeting, a $500,000 grant from the USDA. But will raise local funds through taxation, through use of funds from the unassigned fund balance. A large grant, and I think a prior very small grant from the Tamworth Foundation. We committed $100,000 of ARPA funds, which was federal money that we had committed to these improvements. And we hired an engineering firm to design the new transfer station and recycling center at our existing facility. It was, the cost estimate we had when the initial town meeting approval was obtained was $1.4 million. Once our engineers did a detailed design and cost estimate, it was $2.4 million. And we realized that then that our site was fairly slopey and not very big, and it cost a lot of money to move dirt around and place concrete. And more than half the money was just moving dirt around and placing concrete, even before we built the building. So about $800,000 was dirt and concrete. So this Transfer Station Improvement Committee worked to try to get federal grants to make up the difference. And we struck out on both federal grants. And then I think it was probably late last year, early this year, we realized, well, there is a piece of property for sale that is run as a recycling facility, in North Country Recycling. Willie actually took a lot of time and looked at various other parcels of land around town that weren't even necessarily on the market, that, you know, could you do the same thing elsewhere? Would it be cheaper? Because nobody on TSIC or the select board had any plans to go back to the taxpayers and ask for more money. Nobody was interested in that. So we said, we have to use the money we have to make the most improvements we could. We met with the owners of the North Country Recyclers. The owner was retiring, he wanted to go out of business, but the price was too high. We sat in this room and told them, all we have is the money that we have on hand, and it's $800,000. And they were looking for $1.5 million. And that's a pretty big difference. I think it was on the market for over a year, and the initial price was a lot more than that, so they'd come down once already. We met with them again and said, well, we still only have $800,000, but I forget whose idea it was, but we also said, you know, what we do have is the deed to our transfer station. We could consider $800,000 and the deed to the transfer station. Then we have more resources, but we don't have to go back to the taxpayer for more money. They considered that, and they came back and said, we are interested in that deal. And because we weren't going back to the taxpayers for more money, it was my understanding we had the authority to do that kind of a transaction. The town did adopt an RSA, I think it was 41:14, I think. That gives the select board the authorization to make real estate transactions. There's a provision in there that we have to go to the planning board and the conservation commission to get their input before we make the transaction. There's also the provision that 50 signatures could trigger a town meeting, and that deal goes to a special town meeting instead of being done by the select board. And that process has started. We met with council last week, and we are now informed by council that because if we add the transfer station property to the deal, obviously there's value to that. The project total cost would increase over the $1.4 million that was authorized at town meeting. So we need to go to town meeting if we want to add the transfer station deed into the deal. So we were informed by council just last week that we need to go to town meeting if we're going to make this real estate transaction. So I think the effort underway to gather signatures under RSA 41:14 may not be necessary because we realize we need to go to town meeting anyway. The hard part is it's hard to get a special town meeting. I've never been to a special town meeting. I'm sure many of you have. Either you get half the registered voters to show up. Anybody think that's going to happen? You know, raise your hand. It just doesn't happen. Or you go to a judge and say, we have an emergency situation. Here's our emergency. can we have a special town meeting? And the judge will decide whether you have it. The emergency is defined in RSA 31:5?
Yes.
31:5. And our first impression of that RSA was it didn't give us a lot of hope that a judge would say it's an emergency. When you look closer at it, I think there's some opportunity there that maybe a judge would, but you don't know till you try. We had a transfer station improvement committee meeting, was it early this week? Monday. So I'm a member of the transfer station improvement committee. Steve is our select board rep. And said it looked like the North Country deal probably could not go through because it wasn't clear we had something that qualified as an emergency. And there were a number of TSIC members here. They felt very strongly that we should try. So I indicated to them, you're welcome to come to the select board and advocate for that, because they felt it was important enough to try to see if we could get a special town meeting for this purpose. So that's kind of where we sit. And so I'll hand it over to who's the chairman of the transit.
Okay,
Can I
thank you.
just make a clarifying point
Yeah.
though? You can have a special town meeting without involving the courts. The courts come into play if you need to
To appropriate
more funds than the
Correct.
original appropriation.
Yeah.
Even if you're not raising it from taxation, it doesn't
No matter
matter.
where
If
the
you
money
want it
comes
for the
from.
project, you need to get that's where the court comes
Right,
into
and
it.
was the surprise to me. I assumed if you get the money from somewhere else, like if you went to get a federal grant or somebody just gave you $1 million, town meeting still authorized expenditure for a project of 1.4 million. Even if you get money from somewhere else, you have to go back there, and that was a surprise to me. The one thing that I think really was valuable about the North Country property is, yes, you do give up approximately a $300,000 value of our current transfer station, 300 to 350 according to our realtor. What you get back is their property, the North Country property, which is worth 3 or 4 times that, because it's not slopey, and it's cleared and it's flat, and you could achieve revenue generation out of that property, which we couldn't out of ours. So the project cost gets bigger, but what you get back is of much more value. So.
I think, excuse me, I'm Willie Farnham, and I think you covered most everything, Richard. There's a few things in detail. What we are really here tonight is to ask the Board of Selectmen to go to the Superior Court and ask for a special town meeting. But before I get too deep into that actual document, because I've done some looking at what Sandwich did. They came to the situation where they had an opportunity to buy a fire truck. It was after their town meeting. They went to the court and received permission for a special town meeting to be able to purchase a fire truck at a good price. It was a good deal for the town, so the court allowed them to proceed, and they did in fact move forward with purchasing the fire truck.
And this was pretty recently, a couple of years ago.
What's that?
It was a year or two ago.
2 years, or, yeah, 2 years ago. The key things that I want to bring out is, out of this whole project, the $1.4 million, over 51% of that money was coming from either a federal grant, Tamworth Foundation, or the ARPA money. So less than 50% of this whole project is coming from tax dollars, and those tax dollars amounted to around 680, I won't look it up exactly, but around $680,000. And that was spread over a period of time from 2021 through this year. So it wasn't all at one chunk, here you gotta come up with this. And some of those monies were taken out of the unexpended fund balance. I think it was $150,000 that we're taking out of that. So really it wasn't, yes, it was an expense for the town to do this and move forward. If we do not get a special town meeting, the owner of the property has said, I'm not waiting until your next annual town meeting, I'm selling the place. He's done. And actually he has lowered the price. I looked on the site today and he's lowered the price below what we actually had offered. So He brought the price down to $1,050,000. So we may be in room to negotiate a little bit more to get what we want. I know there are people that feel that we haven't been open about the process. This has been a long process, and you know, I'm not sure how you get the message to everybody. Our minutes are on the town website, our meetings are always open, they're publicly noticed, and we have tried to reach out to people that want to speak. We'll talk with anyone about it. But our real goal is to provide a safe and economical transfer station for the town of Tamworth for the next 40 to 60 years, not just a Band-Aid approach to fix what we have today. If we decide to fix what we have today and not go forward and do anything else, there's $125,000 needed to be spent at the transfer station before July to fix the bathroom, or to make a bathroom and a septic system, and hook up the necessary utilities to that, which would include, you know, for the whole thing. It's basically building a bathroom building. There might be other options that would be less expensive at the moment, but you have to have running water. It's a law. It's not a wish, it's a law. We've been very fortunate for the last 2 or 3 years that the state has not come in and said, you either put it in or you're shut down, period. You know, and talk about a situation that wouldn't be very good if you had to shut down the transfer station. It's one of our most, one of the top 3 infrastructures in the town. You know, you look at any place that has to get rid of waste. If you can't get rid of it, you have a problem. So my concern is that we move forward with a special town meeting, and I don't think it's going to be a big hurdle. I've done a little bit of work, and I can go over the points if the board wants at this time of how I think we can respond to the, or not respond, but put in our comments to the Superior Court under the 5 items that are required for us to petition the court. And I think we have a better than average chance of receiving permission for a town meeting. And the second point of having a special town meeting is it would bring all of this onto the table, let all of the citizens of the town of Tamworth see what's going on clearly. There would be public hearings before, there would be all kinds of information beforehand of the meeting, so it wouldn't be just a knee-jerk, okay, we're going to vote today, bing. You have to have a public hearing, you have to have other hearings and notices so that everybody would be well aware. We really need to have an additional $301,000 value, not tax dollars, value added to the $1.4 million that was appropriated several years ago. It's the best I can do. I mean, I'm hoping, I think the majority of the TSIC board feels that this is a right move to move forward and try and solve the problem for the next, 40 to 60 years. The waste in New Hampshire is going to change drastically in the next 10 years. Several factors. One of the factors is Rochester landfill has 10 years left. That's it. They're done. What do we do with our trash then? The other fact is that the state has in their RSA 149M goals of reaching reduction in trash put into landfills. And we can be a part of that, or we can be a problem. And I would rather be on the, we're trying to help the state garner what they need to do and reduce our cost in the meantime. This piece of property, as Richard said, does have the potential for some income because of its flat location next to 3-phase power. It's a perfectly good location. It's not going to be really visible from any residence. It's well secured, and it also is located where the majority of the people in town live.
It also has a scale
bathrooms, eye wash station, and emergency shower, which is something that I think all three of those emergency things would be needed in a bathroom at a dump.
Like, they do not have the eye wash station,
Oh, well,
but
they
we
have
would.
yeah, you would have to put an emergency.
Right, we
but-
got one,
But you would want one at a dump.
right.
And I'd love to jump in with saying, I think you could argue that it constitutes an emergency, because first of all, if we will lose this opportunity, and it could be something that the town of Tamworth voters really want to support. They're not gonna hold it for us.
Right, right.
And one of the most important reasons would be to hold a special meeting where every citizen and every voter would get a chance to participate. They would have that chance to say, yes, I'm behind you, or no, I'm not. So I think it is an emergency because we need the citizens to weigh in. And again, the running water that we've already talked about, and it would be a considerable financial burden, and we would leave money on the table if we remain with the first plan to do the transfer station. There's no room to get the things that the voters wanted, which was a storage unit and a baler. We would be leaving money on the table because we wouldn't be able to build that storage unit, and the grant money can't be used for just anything. And then, that's it. That's all I had.
In the future, address the select board and ask for permission to speak.
So sorry. I'm so sorry.
Linda?
Yep, Linda Cook. What happened to the ARPA funds that were set aside for the bathroom and shower or whatever, and the signed contract with G. Wendell Brooks so that we were gonna have a bathroom at the present transfer station?
The ARPA funds are still there unspent. I don't
How
know
much
anything.
is it, do you know how much it is?
We committed $100,000 to this project from the ARPA funds.
So those funds are sitting there still,
Yeah.
so a bathroom could go there?
Yeah.
What is the holdup? Why was it canceled? I know that
It
the
was,
Brooks were here and it was a signed contract when I was here.
I don't know about a signed contract. I know that what we decided was it didn't make sense to build a freestanding building if you're in the middle of trying to decide to redevelop the whole site. So we delayed building the bathroom.
And another question is, how much has been spent on the two different designs already for the original plan?
Offhand, I have no idea.
Does anybody on the TSIC committee know?
It's about 150,000 probably.
20.
What?
120.
120, excuse me.
Oh, through Sanborn Head, yeah.
Yeah.
The design.
And
design
then
book.
before, there was another plan before that.
Right, and that was
With
like
Knox.
6,000 or something.
With Bruce Knox.
Yeah.
Thank you. The ARPA funds, it was like 3 years ago.
Yeah.
There was money. It wasn't that 100,000.
Understood.
There was money before that
Yep.
was all set aside for that.
Yep.
I would like to hear, I don't understand, there hasn't been a bathroom at the transfer station for however long it's been there, 20, 30 years. And now today it's gonna be an emergency. I don't understand how, and I would like to hear Willie's points as to what he would put to the Superior Court,
As an emergency.
or what he would petition to it.
I can read what the RSA says as to what constitutes an emergency.
Well, Willie
So I
said he
can-
had some things.
I can read what I think would
Okay,
be
go ahead.
appropriate if you
Sure,
so,
go for it.
if the board would so entertain. Okay, there are 5 points. 5 points are the severity of the harm to be avoided. The second is the urgency of the petitioner's need. Third, whether the claimed emergency was foreseeable or avoidable. Fourth, whether the appropriation could have been made at the annual town meeting. And 5, whether there are alternative remedies not requiring an appropriation. So, under the first one, A, the severity of the harm to be avoided. The harm to be avoided is the lost opportunity to immediately purchase a parcel of land and building for the town's handling of municipal solid waste and recycling. If purchased, the town would be able to ensure the residents of an adequate and safe facility for handling the town residents' municipal waste for many years in the future, as required by law, Chapter 149M, and that's actually :17, is the requirement that that the town provide a facility. B, the urgency of the petitioner's need. The seller is not willing to wait for the town to act until the annual meeting in March of 2025. The urgent need is for the town to approve an additional $300,100 for the transfer station project. The money raised to come from the sale of the present transfer station, not from new taxation. And I get into a lot more verbiage here about money. If you want to hear that, I can do that. The town has been working on replacing the transfer station to bring it into compliance with labor laws and safety issues. In 2021, an engineer was contracted to develop a conceptual plan and estimates for improvement. Conceptual cost estimates was $1,410,200. That amount was approved at the 2022 town meeting under Article 12 with a vote by paper ballot with a total of 146 yes, 42 no, 23%, two-thirds majority was required. The town was able to apply for and receive a federal grant from the USDA for $493,000 toward this project. The total expense for engineering past and going forward plus equipment is $610,300. This, with the land at $1,100,000, is a total project cost of $1,710,300. And as of 4/16/24, engineering expenses for the existing transfer station project amount to $147,300, which maybe my figures
Well, with all the other things in,
with
yeah.
some new bills that had come in and
Yeah.
stuff. So I
Well,
think
she was
that's
asking
where
about
we're at.
design, so that includes like
Testing and a whole
the
bunch of stuff.
well and a bunch
Yep.
of stuff, yeah.
Other items. Okay, excuse me. In August, the request for qualifications for engineers was issued by the town. On November 18th, 2020, a contract was signed with Sanborn Head Associations, Inc., with the goal of having documents ready for bidding by December of 2023. Due to the topography of the land and soils, the final cost estimates were $2,465,100, which did not include, by the way, equipment. The Select Board Transfer Station Improvement Committee, TSIC, was forced to abandon the project at the present location and look for land that was more suited and at the $1,410,200 that was appropriated by the voters. We found a location with the necessary amenities and began negotiating with the property owners in mid-January of this year. Note, the property is listed on the market, and when I wrote this, it was 1.5, now it's down to less. In March, we reached a tentative agreement with the owners of the land using $800,000 in cash and the title to our present transfer station land, buildings and value at $300,000. C, whether the claimed emergency was foreseeable or avoidable. It was not possible to know that this property was available until we realized that the project was not fundable at the present site. And D, whether the appropriation could have been made at the annual town meeting. The negotiations did not occur until after the annual town meeting in March of 2024. E, whether there are alternative remedies not requiring an appropriation. There are no alternative remedies that would allow the town to acquire this property and amenities without the requested appropriation by a special town meeting. And in summation, the town submits this unforeseen opportunity to immediately purchase the land and buildings at a reduced cost for the important municipal needs constituting the type of emergency envisioned by the legislatures in crafting RSA 31:5. And then there's a bunch of legal blah, blah, blah. So that's where we stand. And
I was the example of the fire truck in Sandwich was very informative to me because it's nearby, it was just a couple of years ago, and it wasn't as if they had the fire truck broke or disappeared.
Just want to replace
They
it.
just got better deal on a fire truck. And I was surprised that the judge would agree that that was enough of an emergency to trigger a special town meeting. So I was very surprised at that. So it gives me hope that and the statute actually says it doesn't have to be a crisis. It just has to meet those criteria as an emergency.
What was the status of their current fire truck? Was it functioning?
Yeah,
They had more than one fire.
and they
No
just
reason
were,
that it had to be replaced?
they had planned to replace it, I forget.
And they got some amazing deals, so it was going to be $250,000 less than they thought. Which is a hell of a deal on
We've
fire.
got Melanie and then Becky, and then.
One question I have, I know there was gonna be testing
Yep.
done. Has it been done over there? Because I've
No.
heard a lot of rumors about that place over there. Not
It
good ones.
that would have to be, any offer that's made would be contingent on an acceptable site assessment.
Yeah.
And the landowner knows that, every landowner knows that.
Right.
So we've told them that that's one of our concerns about buying a site like that. So they were not willing to let us go there and start testing until you had purchased the site.
Purchase and sales, right.
I have found out that through the Lakes Region Planning Commission, we can get the site assessment done at no cost to the town of Tamworth.
And what would that include? Because, I mean, I'll tell you, I've heard, it's rumor,
Yep.
whether it's true or not, there's a lot of things buried there.
Yep. It would include, you start with the deed research to find out the past use of the property, which is not that important because we all know what it was.
Yep.
And then you do test bits. You do a number of test bits, and the number and the type of test bits depends on the past land use and what you find when you start the test bits. So it could easily cost $50,000 or more. So any offer that could be made would be contingent on an acceptable results of that site investigation.
Becky?
I'm gonna go back a while, because when this originally started out in 2021, and then went into 2022, Bruce Knox actually did a revision of our transfer station in its present location with recycling and everything. My concern is there's no business plan, Will, you know me. No projected cost. We say we're gonna make money. We don't know that, because you're still gonna have to truck all your recyclables, you're still gonna have to truck all your regular trash. You are still gonna have more expense for maintaining and running that place with the size of it than what we've got now. I don't believe you're gonna have employee enough, 1.5 to 2 people to run that with the size of it. So, I really wanna know, what is the return gonna be? Because right now, we are getting some return on recyclables, and we're not being charged for hauling.
I disagree with that.
And Ricker?
Some of the income that was mentioned isn't actually from the recycling, it's other purposes on the property.
On the North Country property.
No, I'm talking
Yeah,
about
she's talking
right
about
now,
just the
we are
recyc-
getting some monies
Right,
back.
yeah.
But until you can prove, and I know with inflation and everything else, we can't project 10 years out. But if I'm gonna give an example, a bale of aluminum tin cans weighs 700 pounds. A tractor trailer carries 50,000 pounds. I'm reverting back to what you said at the TSIC meeting. Down at Ricker's, there were 3 bales there, and that constituted 1 year's worth of cans from the Tamworth recycling, from the Tamworth. How many years are we gonna have to hold bales to get them so we can take a load down, and then what's the trucking cost versus what you're gonna get back for income?
Can I just make a point?
Yes.
I think that what would be most useful for me in trying to make this decision is to hear points like this, so that we can take the points in and not engage in back and forth. You're bringing up a good point, I don't want people to try to answer your point right now.
No, and I don't want
Yeah,
to.
because I think we could take in all this feedback and percolate on it, so that we can make an informed decision and not get bogged down in everybody trying to answer each other's
Well, and
questions.
that's why I went to the TSIC
Yeah.
meeting, because nobody had thought of the traffic on Route 16 on Sunday when you can't get on 16. So, that's gonna create a whole nother roundabout. And just really a business plan. What's it gonna look like? I mean, we know you can't run that big building over there for the same price you run the little building over here. You, employee-wise, you were talking about walkie-talkies, well, you're gonna need more bodies if you go into this type of business. And I know with inflation, it's hard to say what you're gonna get for an income versus what trucking is, but we know we're already at 11%, 12% increased inflation compared to where we started this in 2021. So project out another 15% and let the taxpayers know what you think you might get for revenue versus what your trucking charges are gonna be. I think that would clear some stuff up rather than just saying, here's this piece of property, it's for sale, we need to get it, when we really don't know that we're gonna make any income off of it.
You were next.
Okay, so concerns.
Can you state your
okay?
name, just so I can?
Oh, my name's Mark Devitetto, I'm a taxpayer and voting resident of Tamworth. So concerns, okay? First, I want to say that I sat on one meeting and I've read the meeting in the minutes, and you guys have been working very hard, all right? But we still have concerns. Right now, the return on recyclables is very low, okay? And the reasons that, I've been in contact with some people, and the reasons are that the manpower involved in sorting and transporting recyclables is astronomical right now, the cost, okay? Insurance is very high when any of that machinery is involved. The piece of property on the current transfer station, again, just like when you said that our feet were held to the fire with waste management on trucking costs, and that we should, they want us, the town, to sign an agreement now, you know, but we can't. But, and I asked a question that was, have you asked for bids from anybody else? The engineering firm, did you ask for bids from different engineering firms to come in? Okay? And did they ask for bids on contractors come in to do the work, or did they just say, this is what is the cost, the going rate for this kind of work right now? Okay? Because that's a big thing. I think that cost for that work, I think it's crazy. I think it's way out of line. That whole mountainside is gravel and material that could be mined probably at not a cost to the town. The piece of property that you're willing to give up for $350,000, I think is below what the value of that property is. And I think the value of the property over at the recycling, former recycling property is way too high. I think, you know, he's looking through rose-colored glasses probably, because 2/3 of the acreage is not available, right? You said there were 80 acres over there, and you're looking at maybe getting the use of 15 acres. Okay, so I see that right there as a big red flag. I'm looking at that property and I'm saying, man, 800, you know, maybe you could, you know, eat that. But over $1 million and then our property for that? No, I think we're getting taken to the cleaners. Now, with respect to that property over there, what you want to do, Becky said it. You're looking at entering the town, entering in the people in this town to enter into a business, which is not really the town's, it's not the town's responsibility to be in business. Our responsibility is to provide a service for the town as select people and boards for all the different boards of town, is to provide a service in a cost-effective way, right? So there's gonna be costs associated, like I saw that there was a machine available for $9,000. Well, I've dealt with machinery my whole life. And is that piece of machinery an up-to-date piece of machinery? It's been sitting for a long time. Is the company that built that machine still in business? What's it cost to refurb that machine? What's the cost to maintain that machine? And that's one machine. Any piece of equipment you buy has to have, and Rick could tell you, that maintenance costs on any piece of machinery, especially now, is very expensive, okay? Access to the property, that's a long dirt, mud road, depending on the type of the season, okay? So, again, that's a situation where during times of the year, is heavy equipment gonna be able to go in and out there to make pickups and drop-offs? Is the road gonna have to be improved? Who's gonna pay for the road? So, in a nutshell, is this gonna cost the townspeople money in the future, over and above trucking costs? Because as with other towns in this county, you've seen that everybody's stretched to the limit, right? You know it, you go shopping, the whole thing. I don't think it's right to put stress on families that are already in stressful situations. And I know there's no guarantees, but I would have to be really comfortable knowing that this would not cost taxpayers any more money. I think it's time for all towns to tighten their belts, just like we've had to tighten our belts at home to be able to absorb costs at the grocery store, at the gas station, from Eversource, from propane gas companies, and everything else that's coming at us, right? It's very, and I know that you've said that you don't want to come back to the townspeople, but that's what I think is the issue here.
Yeah. Kelly was next.
I just want to make 2 points. One point is that this new property that we're considering actually could create revenues outside of the transfer station achievements, above and beyond what could happen with recycling because of the layout of the land, I'll say, is usable for other resources that I'm pretty sure the select board is aware of. If they're not, there's an energy commission that would be love to inform you on its potential. But the other point I want to make is just that this is exactly why this point needs to be brought up at a town meeting, because there are town concerns and there are different avenues to talk. I personally don't want to address things that have come up tonight, like Leanne said, for us not to do. But I do think that at a town meeting is the time for us to have those discussions and to explain what costs that we're seeing on minutes actually were, and to answer questions about if the people are still in business, or to answer specific questions about revenue, or, you know, I feel like that is more pertinent at a town meeting setting. And so that's what the ask is to bring this issue to town meeting so that the townspeople can vote on it and can decide.
Ellen.
I was just gonna second, I'd make the exact point Kelly did. It's so helpful to have Becky's input and Mark's input, and I think that is exactly the reason we need to have this special meeting and the public meetings that would happen before it, so that we can get this great advice from our neighbors and people with more extensive experience than we bring.
Okay. Damon.
Thanks. I guess one question I have is, what on earth would somebody do with the existing transfer station, and while the town owns it? And we talked about land use restrictions and things. Would the town want to put some restrictions on to the new owners and say like we don't want to see this, or this put on the old transfer station? The other question I have is, like, can we bond this extra cost, or do we have to like eat it in one, or is there any need to bond any of this, or do we just need to make that 300,000 jump, right? Like,
There's no need to borrow any money.
no need to borrow any money. Great.
And I doubt there would be any restrictions on that site.
And I think our assumption is that it would be used as the adjoining properties are for some commercial and industrial use. On
And-
that roadway,
Let's-
that would be the appropriate.
Let's wrap this
Yeah.
up.
Let me just say one thing too, though, Damon, that even if I wrote a check tomorrow for the $300,001 or whatever, you still can't use it without town approval because it's more than the original amount. So they're looking at that $300,000 coming from the transfer of the town property. But even if we didn't transfer the town property and they got another grant or they got a private donation or whatever, you still have to get permission from the town to accept and spend that money, even though it's not coming from taxation. So it's because it's over the originally approved number. So,
Yeah, I would like to just add that I love hearing all this, and I think this is very much necessary. But I feel like what's before the select board is voting on whether we have an emergency to go to the Supreme Court for a special town meeting. Superior Court, sorry. There are certainly discussions about do we or don't we increase recycling, what's the cost gonna be, what's the ROI? Great questions, they need to be answered, but I just want to make sure we're focused on the decision before us, which isn't, are we going to recycle, are we going to buy a baler, are we even going to buy NRC? It's that, do we have enough to constitute an emergency?
When it goes to Superior Court, do they open that up for comments?
Yes,
Yeah, I believe so.
has to be publicly noticed, you have to send a notice to DRA, has to be publicly noticed, there's.
Of the hearing?
like a hearing.
What's it?
Of the hearing with
Yes,
the judge?
yep.
Do you still have a question? Dave?
No, no.
Okay, all right. So do we need to act tonight on this? Is that what you're?
I'm ready to make a motion.
Okay.
I make a
Can
motion,
I add one question? Legal costs?
approximately $5,000.
No, I know, but is that coming from the town or is that coming from TSIC funds or
There are no
combination?
TSIC funds. It comes from our legal budget.
Okay. Well, but it would have come from the taxpayers, whoever brought it to the court. So whether the petition went through or whether we're bringing it, it would still cost the taxpayers $5,000. So.
I make a motion, we pursue a special town meeting for this project.
I'm not gonna second. Is there a second?
Second.
Can you say the motion again?
I make a motion, we pursue a special town meeting for this project. And work with council to complete the necessary process.
Roll call vote.
Did you say yes?
Bear, yes.
Schaefer, no.
Prentice, no.
Dales.
So let's bring it back at our next meeting.
Yep.
And see if any research from the points that got brought up tonight changed my mind, or Emery will be here for a tiebreaker, or change your mind.
So
Okay,
that
so-
was 3 no, 1 yes?
I need
No,
time
it's
to,
two.
two to two.
Two.
Yes, two no.
Sure is handy to have October's.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
But I would like to recommend that we put it on our next agenda, because there were some good points
Yeah.
brought up, and some of the answers to some of these could change my mind about going forward in this avenue.
Yep.
So I just need time. I wouldn't have made the motion tonight, that's all.
Yep.
Can I just say that you're welcome to reach out to any of TSIC members for any question clarification.
Thank you.
If there are any specific pieces of information you'd like from TSIC, yeah. If any board member should ask me and we'll get answers, or ask Steve.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time this evening.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate it.
Thanks for coming.
Thanks
All right.
everybody for coming, that was a,
I want to thank all you guys for your time. I do, I appreciate it, really.
Thanks all
I
around,
do.
everybody.
Yeah, and we do need more.
Well, I'm
Need
doing
better
the
numbers.
work on the side, I am.
but we need to move on,
You
we
know.
got
Yeah.
people waiting for the next.
Listen, if
Right.
there was a pot of gold at the end of it, I'd be
Right.
100% let's do it.
Are we in non-public
It's
now?
scary.
I think we should.
Yeah.
We've got people
Yeah.
waiting to be in the
I
non-public.
think we're ready, I think that's the next item. I checked these rest.
Make the motion, I'll write it down.
Okay. I make a motion to go into non-public session under RSA 91A:32A.
At what
Section
time?
1. At
You're doing that
Six-
before public input?
6:32.
Yes,
Yeah.
we've got people been waiting for half an hour for their, to come in, so we've gotta do these now and then we'll come back.
They're just
They're gonna be fairly quick.
They
They'll
just
be
sign
fairly.
A lot of people might just want to.
Oh, right, right.
Yeah, that's a
And
good
then there's
idea.
also public comment,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah,
I'd say
so
move the
let's-
stages for file last.
Last,
Okay,
that's a
let me
good idea.
see.
People don't need to sit through us signing.
And that is a huge
It's too big.
thing, yeah. Okay.
There was an administrative.
This administrator's report.
Yeah, that's
Not non-public and
Yeah.
see what-
Administrative report and then public, select board update.
Yeah.
Still somebody's pen.
It went with the sign.
Okay, I would move to come out of non-public at 7:10.
Second.
Roll call vote.
Do you say yes?
There, yes.
Schaefer, yes?
Prince, yes.
Now out of non-public.
Minutes are,
Minutes are not, oh, minutes are,
Not.
Not
What just
sealed.
happened in my meeting?
you're not,
No,
uh-oh,
we're
There
gonna
it is.
resume.
okay. As soon as you get that, we're gonna ask for administrators update.
Administrator's report, where's the agenda? The, bank balance is $3,238,075. Michaela has been going through a bunch of training, which is great, although she's got a big lot of work to get done as a result. She's done E911, she did the right to know training, she did timber, training with Noah Hoffman
So
today.
she's our new assessing clerk.
yes.
Yeah, and then tomorrow we are meeting with Jason Bickford on the every 5-year audit on exemptions and credits that is conducted of the assessing clerk in the assessing office. So she's learning a ton. I had a call recently, a member of the community had called Senator Bradley's office somebody was concerned about how Article 12 funds were being saved, whether they were in the capital reserve or not. So this guy, who was very nice, spent a fair amount of time watching meetings, reading minutes, reviewing everything. I'm guessing he spent a lot, at least half a day. And he was pleased to report that everything is done correctly, the money is where it should be. And so I just, as always, my office is open for questions of that sort. I have the legal documentation for how that money is being kept. I think that's it for my
Schedule.
report. Schedule. There's been a request made by Emery to have the meeting start at 6 for the summer, because his work days are long. So,
I think we should do like May to November or something
Mm-hmm.
with the 6 o'clock, and then we can, in November, look back at, seemed like it was good in the dark months.
Fine, bud.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's fine.
So maybe start the May 2nd meeting at 6 o'clock?
Yes.
okay. We'll
Won't
do
be
it.
here for that meeting, by the way.
What?
May 2nd, I won't be here for that meeting.
You won't be here, okay.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
Keats, may I ask a question about your report? When you talked about, you said this guy, look at
The
minutes.
DRA.
DRA. DRA.
Yeah, DRA, I don't remember his last name, his first name was Bruce, super nice guy. Yeah.
I was just curious.
Yeah.
And understand
Good
that,
question.
thank you.
Okay, so do we want to go,
Let's go to select board report, public input, and then do
Yeah.
signature?
select board update with Richard?
I was gone for a couple weeks. We did have a TSIC meeting this week. I've already lost track, Monday, Tuesday, whatever it was. All I can remember was talking about the North Country issue and the special town meeting issue. And I'm sure you'll remember some things that I forgot. Today, Steve and I went and had a very good meeting with TJ Eldridge at OSFI to get an understanding of how they do what they do at the OSFI Transfer Station Recycling Center. It was very informative. The level of detail of his knowledge was very helpful to me in understanding the economics of recycling and how they've developed the program that they have. So that was very helpful. I think there's there's a lot of flow of information. We'll probably have to go back and try to remind me some of the information, because it was a lot of input, and that was very helpful. I've been to a few other transfer stations, but this one was, more detailed about how it operates. So that was very, very helpful to me. A couple of little tidbits that I learned that were very interesting is our schedule is for our transfer station is Wednesday, Saturday, Sunday, and they used to do something like that in Ospey. And it turns out if they just moved their Wednesday to the Friday and had a bigger chunk of time for the haulers to come and go, the hauling prices went down. I just thought it'd be good to have it just because maybe your employees would rather work a chunk of time instead of a wacky Wednesday, Saturday, Sunday schedule. But the haulers like to have a bigger chunk of time to just move the containers around and not have to worry about the public. So I thought that was something I had never thought of. So that was pretty interesting. Another thing that they do operationally is they gave up chipping brush a long time ago. It's not worth the hassle. It's not worth the time, the maintenance on the chipper. Once a year, somebody comes and they pay them $1,500, which is a very small amount of money, and they chip a year's worth of brush and they haul it all away.
So they've got space to just store all that
Right.
brush for a year, huh?
Right, and it's a ginormous pile of brush.
Yeah.
And that is certainly a better use of your staff time and your resources fixing the chipper. So I thought, well, there's a number of things that as we go forward with our transfer station, wherever it is and whatever it looks like, a number of things like that we need to consider. He said when they put their scale in, which they installed themselves for the most part, it paid for itself like in no time, because now the people can't argue about the prices and your revenue increases. And another thing I think we need to really seriously consider is different rates for commercial versus residential, and they have different rates. It really works well if you have a scale, though, because if a commercial entity's bringing something in, it'd be hard to figure out how much to charge them unless you weigh it. But if it's a price per pound or price per ton, you can argue all you want, but the number on the screen is what it is, and you have to pay.
Yeah, he said their scale gets a ton of use.
Yep.
Yeah.
And you pretty much need to have somebody within sight of the scale at all times.
Yeah.
So one thing that Steve and I were thinking about, is our site is so tiny, it's almost impossible to put a scale there because it's in the way of other things. And so TJ asked, well, why don't you put it down front because it's flat? Well, we would take staff time. Well, you need somebody at the scale anyway. So it almost doesn't matter where you put it because somebody has to be there. And there, maybe that big open area, maybe that's where we pile up all the brush and let the brush pile up. So there's ways to make anything work. So I certainly I've been swinging back and forth in the last year or so on where's the transfer station going to be, and wherever it is at this point, I almost don't care. At some point, we'll get to a decision and we'll make do with what we have with the money that we have. So certainly, I haven't given up on the idea of the transfer station being where it is either, because there's ways to make it work. So that's the end of my speech.
Okay. I don't have much to report. They postponed the library trustees meeting and we didn't hear about it, so I missed my library meeting. Oh. And I volunteered to be the Tamworth representative you remember Marianne Jackson came in last time and talked about that age-friendly community?
Mm-hmm. It's right up your alley.
Right, yeah, exactly. So I'm going to represent their steering committee, and I think there are 8 or 10 towns that participate in that.
That's excellent.
So the meetings are just 4 times a year.
We should add that to the spreadsheet.
Well, we'll see how it goes first.
Well, thank you for doing that.
Yeah. So that's all I've got.
Yeah, well, I mean, you've heard most of what I did. Yeah, by the skin of my chin, I got my activity in for the town today, with Richard. But yeah, I second everything that Richard said about the information TJ gave us. He's incredibly knowledgeable and has been doing this for a very long time. Some of the things that I wanted to point out that I hadn't thought about before was just the cost of baling itself. He brought up a lot about not just I used to bail when I worked at grocery stores. I thought it was fun. But the amount of people that you need, the amount of money it costs to bail are all things that I just hadn't considered. He has a ton of knowledge about how much work it takes to look at the recycling commodity market and make those decisions. He's doing these things on a daily basis. And we talked about getting a job description that is similar to what they're doing there. Talked about different kinds of balers. They actually have 2 vertical balers that they might be looking to get rid of. So
And a new ginormous horizontal bale.
a new, some horizontals. Talked about waste heat oil as an option, or as one of the heaters at NRC, something that we should know more about. So I just can't say enough about all the information he gave us.
Yeah, the tidbit about the waste oil was, as long as it's your waste oil that you're putting in there, then they're fine. But if you're taking waste oil from the public, you don't really know for sure what's in there. And you spend a lot of time maintaining the heater because there's probably like brake fluid and other stuff mixed in with the waste oil. So that made sense to me.
And he even brought up with personnel being such a large cost, as we know they are, and they stopped recycling. I think said it was going to cost them like $14,000 more to throw it in the MSW, but they saved $100 and something thousand, $115,000 by not needing another body. It was pretty easy now.
Well, one particular thing I asked him was, he knows Alan's job. Alan Libby, his last day was Wednesdays. And we've posted it at $18 to $22 an hour, and asked him, how much do you think we should post that job for? He said 20 to 25. So I think we should repost the job and post it at 20 to 25. Because we shouldn't be sitting around waiting in the hopes that some crazy person wants to do the job at $18 an hour. So it would make sense to put that in the newspaper to higher salaries, because we really need employees, right?
Do we need a motion for that?
A motion, we
To
repost
increase.
the position at 20 to 25.
Second.
Roll call vote.
You say yes?
There, yes. Schaefer, yes.
Price, yes.
Leanne? Oh, I assume you're done. Are you done? I didn't mean to cut you off.
I'm done.
Planning board last week had a work session, which is the first work session to talk about the master plan. And it was just a very open conversation of the board talking about, should we,
Master plan or build up?
master plan. Should we look at it chapter by chapter? Should we dive in and reboot the whole thing? We talked about what was effective or useful information in the last plan, and what kind of information we'd like to see in a revised version. We started talking about the questions about the process that was used in 2007, I guess, when it started, 2006 or 7, to get the 2008 version. And May 8th, I think, is our second work session. And we've invited some people who were very involved in the first go-round, like David Little, to come in and talk to us about the process and what recommendations, like what they thought worked well and what they think, what were the misses that they would do differently. So that's interesting. We haven't made any decisions about the track to take yet, but we're starting the conversations. The build-out analysis is supposed to come back to us in the next couple of weeks in the rough draft form. And so we'll look at that and come up with whatever questions we have about it, based on the data that they're presenting. And then it goes back for tweaking, and theoretically, I think June is when we should have a final draft after some back and forth in the next couple months. And last, this coming Monday, the 22nd, at Runnels Hall at 6 o'clock is the Lakes Region Planning Commission, last commissioner meeting of the year, other than the annual meeting in June. And the topic of conversation, and there will be 2 speakers, is on brownfields and ways that municipalities are trying to recover that land.
What is a brownfield exactly?
It's like a land, just like what Mel was bringing up about the potential contamination. So it's land that's been contaminated by a prior use. And so there are ways to mitigate so that you can actually use it for something that benefits the region. So there'll be 2 speakers talking about that. Those meetings usually last for 2 hours. They're open to the public, it's free, so you can just show up at Reynolds Hall at 6.
All right. We're gonna hold off on the signature file just because it's long and ask for public comment. Melanie?
I have something to share. Starting May 7th, that's a Tuesday, the congregate meals are coming to Union Hall from Ospey Concerned Citizens.
Oh, excellent.
For anybody over 60. There's a recommended donation of $3, but if they don't get it, in Union Hall, board members will be going down, picking it up, serving it family style, and
Nice.
so it will start up on,
Is that a one-time thing, or is it?
nope, it will every week, every
Wow.
Tuesday.
Every Tuesday?
Wow.
Yeah.
What time is it at?
Probably, we pick up the food at 10:30, so it would start like at 11:30.
So it's 11:30?
Yeah, just to give us enough time to.
Yeah.
What did you say the recommended donation
So
was?
it's a lunch.
3?
Yeah, I'm gonna be putting it out, with, Ann McGarity, Ann, whatever
Yeah.
her married name is now.
Gorgeous.
And I'll put it on the exchange, we'll put up some posters, and just put it wherever we can.
And it's a lunch, so every,
Yep, it's a
okay.
lunch.
That's
Every
great.
Tuesday.
That is great.
Yeah.
The ones in Moultonborough, so many people go, and it's like the highlight of their week.
Now,
Because
we
it's
did
good,
it-
you get the same people.
It used to be at the townhouse, and then we did during COVID, the drive-through, and we had like over 30 people, sometimes 40,
Yeah,
that would come through. So we're starting off with hoping maybe 20, but I think it will grow quickly.
Yeah.
will you move to the townhouse in the winter, or will Union Hall be open year round?
It depends, a lot of what, we stopped doing it during the winter only because there were so many people that wouldn't
Couldn't
come
come out.
out
Oh,
with
yeah.
the snow. And
Yeah.
then, was it canceled, was it there, it just, it was easier to say, go to OCC if you can make it,
Yeah,
We'll see when the time comes.
yeah,
yeah,
we'll see.
that's good, that's great.
So,
That's a good use for Union Hall too.
yep, so that was it.
Nice. Becky?
I'm gonna go back on my T-sick thing. Again, only because I'm a numbers person, even though I don't have a numbers background, I'm a numbers person. There was mention of them leasing the property back to us if we took the North Country
Yep.
property. And could something be brought up if we have public information about what that lease is gonna cost us? Are we paying for the hauling fees? Are we not paying for the hauling fees?
Yep.
How much is that gonna be
Yep.
an impact for that period of time?
Yep, I can answer that.
Okay.
The
You
North,
don't have to now, I think.
it's a simple answer is,
Okay.
we would just continue to operate a transfer station as we always have until the other site is ready. And we would pay them something like $1 a month. That's the amount that they mentioned to us. One thing we had looked into is the possibility of foregoing the property taxes because they would be the owner of our property, but they couldn't use it. So for the time period we would occupy it, we would try to abate the taxes for that time period as a gesture on our part.
And the second thing, I thought you would bring it up, was the EV and antique
Oh,
car
I forgot.
on May
I forgot.
5th at
Yep.
Club Motorsports.
Yep.
Yeah.
With the Tamworth Energy Commission.
Yep.
They're also holding a talk May 7th at Union Hall to give information about the company coming in for the
power.
town, the power company for the town.
Yep. I missed that. Thanks for reminding me.
Wait, I'm
I
sorry, what was
posted.
the second thing, Becky? The May 5th was the
The
car
Energy
fair.
Commission's presenting information regarding the,
Oh,
I can't
Energy
The
plan.
community power
The
plant.
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah,
Power
yeah,
CPC.
There you go.
Yep, thanks.
What time is that at Union Hall?
I asked that yesterday because we were putting the calendar together. I believe it's at 6, but don't quote me on it.
Okay.
She's sending me something to post because I nudged her today too.
Anything else?
When you were talking about the, meeting with TJ and stuff, and they chip all their brush once a year,
Mhm.
if it was down in that empty spot at the bottom of the,
Mhm.
transfer station. And you hire somebody to come in and chip it, the best time is like when mud season, because the roads are posted and they're kicked off most roads. Right on 25, it would be an easy thing to get somebody to go in and do that. Yeah.
Good point.
But maybe not haul it off, because I believe Richard Roberts uses it on the sides of the roads sometimes as
He does
back.
whatever they
Yes,
chip, he
whenever
uses.
they have it shipped, it's usually cleaned out of there by the town.
But if they're not hauling off, it's gonna cost you more, because they're gonna
They
sell
want
it.
it.
Right,
Yeah,
well,
yeah.
that's, see.
I guess they bring it to Berlin.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but check with Richard,
Yeah,
because I'm
that
pretty
makes
sure
sense.
he uses it for bank erosion control.
The big grinder and apparently just drop it all in. Pretty cool.
I do have a follow-up question. Have you, I know when I was a selectman, we had started to look into doing something kind of like OSPI with like Public Works Department.
Right.
You know, is that something, because,
I was gonna bring that up, that TJ's job is not just,
no,
Right.
no.
he's public works. and
Right,
that's
and that's a huge, it's a big job, but
It is.
it takes care of a lot of departments, and, you know, it's like you've got people that can work
Yeah.
from the highway department at the transfer station, or,
He brought it up many times and said, that's one way that he saves money, is he
Right.
have people in both departments doing both things.
yeah,
And nobody can complain it's not in their job because they're all in one department.
Right.
So he's a big fan of it, and I don't know legally and charter-wise what that entails, but certainly,
Well,
I would assume that's in our future at some point, but
At some point, I mean,
is it
you know,
next week or
OSPI
10 years from now?
OSPI's
Right.
twice as big,
Big,
right?
Yeah.
right, right.
So
Much
within
bigger town.
population and area, probably.
But getting personnel is like
Yeah.
Well, that's a,
not fun
yeah.
at all, and there's always, you know, you think you've got it done, and,
Yeah.
It just undoes itself every 6 months.
right.
No,
Or even-
Leanne and I went and met with TJ last year sometime, and we were also very impressed with what he's doing and how he's handling stuff down there.
Well,
So,
and you've got somebody overseeing,
yeah,
A lot of the, I mean, you know, like if he's looking for bids for a backhoe or an excavator, I mean, he's going out looking for all that. It's not on the department head, I mean,
Right,
it's like,
right.
he does a lot. If there's
Yeah.
somebody called out for plowing, he
Yeah.
jumps in a truck, I mean, he does a lot of different things.
yeah.
cause
Yeah.
I went down it, and it was like the numbers that he could give you, that,
Yeah, 'cause
how
that
much
agreed
it
for
costs
the
to
numbers.
replace a
Yeah.
culvert, you know, right down to
Mhm.
how many loads of gravel, to the delineator post, to,
Yeah.
you know, he knew,
Yeah.
you know, I was impressed with that.
Yeah. Okay.
I just have one
Oh,
more question.
Yeah,
I did look at different towns, transfer funds, transfer facility stickers and stuff.
Yeah.
We're one of the few towns that don't charge for our stickers. OSPI charges $40 for 2 years.
Like, you don't get any free ones?
No,
I think
On
they
top
charge
of-
20.
OSPI charges 40.
Okay. I
Their
thought I
new
heard
rate,
20 too.
their new rates that they
Oh,
just
for two.
posted are 40
Yeah.
oh,
for 2
Yeah.
years.
I thought
Oh,
it went
2
from
years.
10
I
to
see.
20, but yeah, it is 2 years.
And
So
most
did
of
20.
most of them are 2 years, a lot of them are 20. You're right, they charge for commercial. But the other thing is I was surprised at how many of them are open 4 days a week.
Yeah, they are.
Around us, not 3 days like we are,
Yeah.
it's 4 days a week, and you're right, in a both, but 4 days a
we're
week.
like, we're, yeah,
Smaller
in
town.
Freedom, it's Friday, Saturday,
Yeah,
Sunday,
Freedom.
Monday.
Right.
The amount of refuse that they deal with though is
Is
double,
astounding.
easily double.
Well, right, I
Yeah.
mean,
Well, for example, Freedom is open 4 days a week.
yeah,
Sandwich is open 4 days a week. So they're similar sizes to us,
Yeah.
but they have a broader, and their hours are basically 8 to 5, just like ours are.
Yeah.
But you're right on construction, the amount of tonnage for commercial construction is
Yeah.
huge.
yeah,
The,
gotta make more money on that.
we're gathering information now to potentially make changes to our permit process. Because I think some changes are needed. Everything from how much does it cost to throw away tires to who gets stickers and how much do they cost.
Yeah, when we redid it a couple of years ago, we based it on Sandwich's permit policy because, again, ours is sort of unique because it also gives you access to the lakes.
Yeah,
Whereas in Conway, it's a separate fee to get access to your lakes. If you own property, it's not connected to the transfer
Yeah.
station. You actually get 2 separate permits.
So the whole permit sticker policy and the fees needs
Yeah.
an
Gotta
update.
go
We're in
over
the
it,
midst of
for
that.
Well, and it needs to be enforced if you're gonna
Yeah.
do it.
Well,
Oh,
that's the
yeah.
other
That's
hard
the
part.
other
the
thing.
biggest thing.
I mean,
Yeah.
we did it and there was no enforcement, so.
Yeah.
Well, we tried.
We tried and got the license plate numbers, and then it became almost a brawl at the transfer station.
Yeah.
Can
But if you
imagine.
have somebody enforcing the stickers at White Lake, they should be able to enforce the sticker
Or
at
at
the,
Chicago Lake.
I mean, at
Yeah.
Chicago Lake, or up at the one Bear Camp.
Cause if they're not gonna be
Sandwich
enforced,
takes
why
care
do
of the
it?
bear camp,
Yeah.
I think.
And I
mean,
think.
if it's gonna be enforced, it should be
Yeah.
enforced everywhere.
Yeah. And anytime you change something, the hard part is right at the beginning, and then you hope it eases off. Yeah.
And the TRP committee is taking that on.
They're-
Tamworth Recycling.
They're gathering data from the other towns, and then I'm gonna meet with Kim and
Yeah, most of it's right online. I mean, I looked at Conway,
Yeah.
Freedom, and Effingham and Madison real quick, because they list it right up in the transfer
Yeah.
station, so it shouldn't take too bad.
Yeah.
But we did do the permit over 2 years ago,
Mhm.
but we based it on how Sandwich was because of the access to the
Yeah.
lakes.
Makes sense. Any Zoomers wanna chime in public comment? I'm not sure we have.
It's just,
Who's that?
is Jim really there, or is it just you?
He is, no, he's really there. He's really there.
See, he's reading.
He's making my supper.
Oh, I wish he were making mine. Okay,
All right,
get that huge signature file going.
yeah, we gotta go with the signature file.
I just have a question for Pete. Do you want me to change that on the webpage, like?
Change
the-
which?
The amount
price
being
for the-
offered for the.
Oh, would
transfer
you?
station
That'd be
account?
great, thank you.
Oh, and there's a change to the cemetery trustees, and I don't think that's gonna.
I
change.
haven't updated all the
Oh.
pages yet because I
Good
have
night,
to give them
Maureen.
a call.
Thank you.
Because some names will allow me to put stuff next to it and some
Oh,
names
yeah.
don't. It's tricky like that sometimes.
Yep.
It's from when it was originally built. Some
Mhm.
Glitched and it's,
Yeah. and
it
it stays glitched.
Becky, has anything, totally off topic, but has anything happened with the transition to .gov for the website?
We haven't gone to .gov.
But the new,
That's for me to kick off with Lakes Region.
okay.
That's part of,
Becky
Yeah.
will be involved with that, I assume? or-
yeah.
I mean, we had talked, she had asked me before she took time off, we looked at it, and when we looked to go Civic Plus, the government site like Ossipee and those guys, it was gonna be, cause you're literally building a new site, it was gonna be $6,000 at the time. And at that point, select board was, most of us were leaving and we didn't wanna burden people with stuff like that, so we had, it didn't go. But as I said to her, you can't get as much on, you can't put as many pretty pictures on and stuff
Oh.
like that. So that's why it was decided to stay with what we had at the time.
And the issue is both Primex and tech folks say go to .gov because it's much
Yeah,
safer.
it's more safer.
Yeah.
Uh,
So I'll pick that ball up again, probably
Just
in
curious.
May. And see what it takes and how much it
Because,
costs.
yeah, I mean, it's a simple call to their, you literally call them and say, come out and give us a demo, how much is it gonna be, and they'll tell you. The only thing is it's not as versatile as ours is.
And you can't migrate our existing site, you have to rebuild it. Yeah.
Because when I asked them about that, about converting it, they said, well, basically, that's a whole different division, so you rebuild the site.
Of course.
Because we don't talk to each other within the company.
Not anymore, they're actually two separate names even now, I even had to get a new phone number because it wasn't going through to the old
Okay.
number. So, alright, I'm leaving.
Okay.
I make a motion to accept the meeting minutes from April 9th, 2024, and the meeting minutes from April 12th, 2024.
Second.
Roll call vote.
Do you say yes?
Barry, yes.
Schaefer, yes.
Yes, yes.
4 yes. I make a motion to accept the non-public meeting minutes under RSA 91A 3-2A from April 9th, and non-public from, under the same RSA, April 12th.
No, second. We're gonna do all.
Oh, I could, those were the 2 A's. Oh, no it isn't, okay, and the non-public meeting minutes, RSA 91A 3-2D from April 12th, and non-public under RSA 91A32A from
Can
April
I
12th.
interrupt? I think that should be a C, according to your meeting minutes.
The
Oh, the
last
fourth one?
Yep. C, like the A should be a C. If you look at the meeting minutes,
Look
there
at the
was an
folder.
A, a D, and a C.
Oh.
Yeah.
I figure, what, let's just see anyway.
I think you asked for the D.
It's what?
I think Steve and Richard asked for additional,
There certainly
Yeah.
was a D.
a D and a C,
I don't know
What's,
what
which meeting is it?
the
12.
12th.
12.
The third one that I added on.
We have an A
Oh,
from the 9th. We have an
yeah,
A,
that could be a C.
we have a D, and we have an A from the 12th. It says ADA.
Yeah, if you read the meeting
It
minutes,
says to discuss employee behavior,
A, D, and C.
so that would be a C. I think that's
So it's
right.
just checked off the wrong one on here.
Well, I mean, yeah,
So how do we correct that?
Just check
Check the
change
other
check
box.
box. Employee
So that-
behavior was the C.
You still
So
have an
it's
open
reputation.
motion without a second.
Right,
Did
so
it get corrected? Did the
Well,
motion
I
get
would-
corrected?
No, it did not.
no. I move to
thanks, Mel.
approve the non-public meeting minutes under RSA 91A32C from April 12th, 2024.
Second.
Roll call vote.
Did you say yes?
Barry, yes.
Schaefer, yes.
Prentice, yes.
I move to accept the intent to cut for map 408, lot 56, Access Road, High Street.
Second.
Roll call vote.
Did you say yes?
Barry, yes.
Schaefer, yes.
Prentice, yes.
I move to approve the timber tax yield for map 408, lot 53, sublot 1, no cut, and timber yield tax map 410, lot 50, 500.
Do those separately, because one's a to ratify a correction.
Oh, so it is.
Yeah.
Timber tax yield map 408, lot 53, sublot 1, no cut.
Second.
Roll call vote.
Did you say yes?
Barry, yes.
Schaefer, yes.
Prentice, yes.
This is one that we added to the agenda. To approve the timber tax yield, timber yield tax map 410, lot 50, in $596.23 to ratify the correction.
Second.
Roll call
Did
vote.
you say yes?
Barry, yes.
Schaefer, yes.
Prentice, yes.
I move to approve excavation tax assessment for map 206, lot 40, the amount of $230. Excavation tax assessment for map 413, lot 13, for $0 under 1,000 cubic feet, no tax. Cubic, 1,000, I don't know, CUs.
Cubic units, there's
Cubic
no
units.
tax on that one.
Yeah. And the excavation tax assessment map 413, lot 14, for $140. No. Yes, correct. God. Excavation, and the excavation tax assessment map 201, lot 39, for $1,014.52. And the excavation tax assessment map 210, lot 3, no tax.
Second.
Roll call vote.
Did you say yes?
Barry, yes.
Schaefer, yes.
Prentice, yes.
I make a motion to approve a driveway application for map 211, lot 51.
Second.
Roll call
Did you
vote.
say yes?
Barry, yes.
Schaefer, yes.
Prentice, yes.
I'm moving to approve this. Limitation of liability for erection.
The driveway application, or the,
Barbara,
not the,
application's in
the
here.
class 6 road,
Yep.
very last one, limitation.
I think that's we're
Oh, this is,
moving to approve it?
yeah,
There's a signature on it.
yeah.
Okay. I'm moved to approve limitation of liability for erection of a building or driveway on a class 6 road.
Second.
Roll call
Or
vote.
accept it, but anyway, yeah.
Did you say yes?
Barry, yes.
Schaefer, yes.
Prentice, yes.
I move to approve the payroll manifest in the amount of $55,864.89.
Second.
Roll call vote.
Did you say yes?
Barry, yes.
Schaefer, yes.
Prentice, yes.
I move to approve the accounts payable in the amount of $404,403.26.
Second.
Roll call vote.
You say yes?
Barry, yes.
Schaefer, yes?
Prentice, yes.
The cash used to date, $3,031,351.70. I move to go into non-public.
No, we're
Now
done.
we're done.
No, we don't, we did them up.
We did all
we
three.
did
Move
them
to
now.
adjourn if you want.
Yeah, let's go into non-public anyway.
Let's
No,
not.
in
No.
fact, I move to adjourn.
And our future meetings will start at 6.
7:43.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah.
We don't have one, we don't have another one in April? Oh, no, we don't.
No, we don't.
Great. How time flies.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming.
I'd like to apologize for my tardiness.
Oh. Thank you for,
Coming.
thank you for coming.
Yeah, see you, thank you.
Thanks for all the input, guys, girls.
See ya. So Jeannie said she'd get in touch with me to see what the schedule was gonna be like.
And Rick
Good night,
is
Jim.
involved as far as.
Yeah, yeah, he's great to
Okay, so-
work with.
Yeah, he's
He
really
really
good.
is, because with the whole snow shoveling and all that, I let him know who's gonna be there. If they're not gonna be there, you know, we communicate really well.
Yeah.
So it works